Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. Today's guest is Danny Carr. Needs no introduction, but he is the Jefferson County District Attorney for the Birmingham Division. Welcome to our show again, Danny.
Hey, thank you for having me. I tell you, it's interesting times, but I'm always, grateful to have an opportunity to have this conversation with you on your show. I watch your show often, so thanks for taking the time out to have me this time.
So since March of 2020, things have changed in our judicial system in general. But of course, me and you work in the criminal judicial system and not the civil. Right. Although there is some, of course, our presiding judge is a civil judge, and she makes the rules and has lots of input in terms of how things get scheduled. But how has COVID impacted the procedural aspects of what the normal operation of the district attorney's office would have been versus what it has been?
It has changed a lot. I can tell you initially firsthand that it obviously has affected the way the courts are run. It has affected our ability to have jury trials. It has affected our ability to have grand juries, per se. But also it has affected the way the office runs as it relates to the office of the district attorney runs as well, because, we're now having to do things a little different. We're working with skeletal crews somewhat. And what that means is that we have 117 employees here at this office, which a lot of people may know or may not know, is the largest district attorney's office in the state of Alabama. And we've gone from 117 employees, 43 of which are lawyers, to basically having 9 people here a day on a rotating basis, because we have to continue to be accessible to law enforcement. We have to continue to be accessible to the magistrate as it relates to whether or not warrants are issued or recommended or not. So we still have to operate, but we're operating with a lesser amount of people, obviously for safety purposes, and we're also doing a lot more things virtually than we have before.
Well, to me, the reality is the intake has not slowed down.
Correct.
I don't sense that crime has come to a halt, no, in spite of the fact that people can't be out.
That's right.
To me, the numbers are probably similar to what they were pre-COVID. I don't know, you might know. They're getting clogged up because they can't move forward because people can't congregate, like grand juries, for example. Jefferson County, historically, because of what you said, being the largest county district attorney's office in the state, had grand juries that met once a month.
That's right.
That hasn't been happening until recently.
Yes.
So you're trying to double up to catch up, and I take it you're having to establish some priorities of what you go after from a grand jury standpoint.
Yes, we've definitely had to look at how we approach our grand jury under these circumstances. Obviously, this is new for everybody. So we've had to look at how we approach our grand jury. Typically here in Jefferson County, especially in the Birmingham division, I think we're the only jurisdiction in Birmingham where we have a grand jury every month, not quarterly, but every month. And in some time we have them twice. And for the purposes of what we're doing here, we've had to look at and prioritize which cases we want to make sure that we present and get them through versus presenting the cases in an orderly fashion, how they come from district court. In other words, minor possession cases, first time simple thefts, first burglaries of a shed and things of that nature. We've had to put those on the back burner and try to creatively see if we can resolve those cases in a fashion pre-grand jury versus allowing them to go through the grand jury process and dealing with them in circuit court. We've had to prioritize and look at our violent crimes and make sure that when we're able to sit a grand jury safely, that we use that time appropriately to make sure that the people who are looking at the most serious cases, which carry the most serious punishment, that their cases are dealt with so we can get those cases up in circuit court and at some point get to the process of either trying to resolve them or have them ready to be tried whenever we can get to that point.
And I take it a priority is assigned to people who are presumed innocent until proven guilty, which is your responsibility. And those people that are under those circumstances are either in the Jefferson County Jail with no bond or with a bond that they cannot make. And I would think that they would be a priority, and I would think violent crimes would be a priority, and I would think sex offenses would be a priority.
Absolutely. And their bond situation is a consideration for us. People that are out on nonviolent offenses, to be honest with you, we're working those cases as if there's no COVID, trying to see if we can creatively resolve them, maybe through our diversion courts, maybe in looking at restitution to make the victims whole again. But the people who are in jail on a no bond, because of speedy trial issues and things like that, and they are presumed innocent. So we want to make sure that we try to be as expedient as we can with those cases and efficient as we can to make sure that we're able to get those cases through as well.
All right, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Danny Carr. Don't go away. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking to Jefferson County District Attorney Danny Carr. We've been talking about how COVID has affected the operational parts of the criminal justice system. I want to shift gears and talk specifically about something that's been in the news more than I'd like to embrace and acknowledge, and that is the homicide rate in the city of Birmingham primarily. Now, I know you are the DA for the entire Jefferson County Birmingham Division area, and there is homicides in suburban areas outside of the city of Birmingham. But this past year, Birmingham hit a record number. What are we doing wrong? What can we be doing better? Is it a law enforcement issue? Is it a situation where people are within their homes committing crimes that you couldn't stop anyway because a brother and a sister or a family member got into it? How are you dealing with that?
I think, in all honesty, if we're being upfront about it, I think it's a mixture of everything. And what I mean by that is, on one side, I think it is a byproduct of certain communities where there's hopelessness, where people don't value life as much because they don't understand or see past what their circumstances are. But on the flip side of that, there's also a situation where there's intimate partners, where there's violence involved, where law enforcement could not have predicted or stopped it in the first place. So there's a combination of both. And also there's a part of which where there are young people who are making decisions that change their lives forever for whatever reason. And there is no adequate situation where we can look at and say, why would this young man take a gun and think that the best situation is to go out and take from someone and kill someone? Or why would a person who has conflict not look at what's the best way to solve their conflict through conflict resolution other than by using a gun to end the life of another person, effectively ending the life of everyone involved. The victim's family changed, lives changed forever. The defendant's life changed forever. And it doesn't resolve anything. So I think it is a societal issue based sometime on conflict resolution issues, people who don't know how to deal with their problems other than resorting to violence, the ultimate violence, meaning ultimately killing someone, and the hopelessness of people who need more resources and desperately need help in their various communities, and they resort to violence. And then what you see is what I call a powder keg of violence just erupting throughout our city, unfortunately.
One of the things that I try to say to people who raise this issue to me is Birmingham is not an island. Birmingham is not the only place where, although violent crime numbers are down overall, 20 something plus percent, homicide rates are up. But it's not just Birmingham. I mean, it's nationwide where these numbers, and could COVID be affecting it? You know, people are under a lot of stress economically, you know, the society being forced to be confined, and tempers are flaring. Do you get input from other DAs around the state that are expressing to you similar problems that they're having?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we talk all the time about violence throughout this state, and I've had conversations with DAs in other states and other jurisdictions that are having similar issues. But one thing that I like to touch on that you mentioned is that we have definitely seen a rise in the amount of domestic violence cases during COVID. And we've looked at the amount of PFAs that have been filed, meaning protection from abuse petitions that are filed at family court or in domestic relations. And those numbers have crept up as well. And a lot of that, again, is due to people being confined in the home. And for whatever reason, they can't deal with their conflict other than resulting into using violence. So it is nationwide. It's definitely in other states. And in some states, I can tell you that it's even more paramount than here. But we have to get a handle on it. And I will say that we've had a lot of conversations about how to deal with this issue. You know, whether it's providing more resources in the community, which I think we have to do. Typically, this business, especially the DA's offices, historically, we've been more reactionary, meaning after the fact. We prosecute people. But one of the things that I want to do was also try to be more proactive in the community and try to make sure that I'm visible and try to make sure that people understand that violence is not the answer, but we have to pour more resources in the community, and we have to be willing to be servants, true servants, as elected officials.
Well, I want to talk about those programs, some programs that are in place already to try to combat that when we come back from break. And I don't think we have time to answer the question I also want to ask you in these last 15 seconds of this segment, but I'll let you think about it.
Okay.
Law enforcement in and of itself is not the solution to the problem.
Right.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Our Issues Birmingham and Danny Carr. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking with our District Attorney of Jefferson County, Danny Carr. I asked you a question right before break. Briefly, we can touch upon it. Law enforcement alone, and during the break you raised a very good point, law enforcement alone can't solve the homicide rate in Birmingham because they're reacting to a phone call they get after the event has already occurred.
Right.
So what you're proposing and what's already going on in some instances is to get proactive into the community to teach either conflict resolution alternatives, to get guns out of young people's hands and replace it with, a hammer, teaching a skill. I know the Birmingham Home Builders Association has been wanting to start an apprenticeship program with inner city kids in Birmingham. I know Dr. Henry Panion has a program at UAB. I'm going to get him on this show. I just learned about it. We're bringing instruments back to young people. But this culture has learned a behavior that we've got to reverse, and maybe some parts of it can't be reversed. We have to go at even younger people to teach
Right.
alternative plans. What is your office got going on currently that's proactive as opposed to reactive?
You know, and that's a great question. One of the things I wanted to tackle originally was what they call the pipeline to prison. And oftentimes people don't believe that it's real, but it is real. And if a young person drops out of school at an early age, they either end up in the backseat of a car with a gun in their hand, or they end up on that corner with drugs. And once they get in the system, it's so tough to get out. So what we've done, obviously, we've instituted what's called the Helping Families Initiative that deals with the pipeline to prison. And what that means is that it answers and deals and responds to chronic absenteeism. What is the root cause of a child not going to school? And what we've done is we provided a multidisciplinary team. We do home assessments, we do home plans, and we follow through with that to make sure that kids are in school. And if I can give you a quick number here, just a real number, what we've learned, one school, and I won't name that school, we're in 25 Birmingham City schools, and we're also in Tarrant and their feeder pattern. But one Birmingham school had, in March 5th, 2019, had 3,098 unexcused absences, 3,098 in 1 year. This is a K through 8 school. The year we were in the school, we saw a decrease to 2,149 days, which is 949 days difference, which equates to 6,643 hours of additional learning time. Those are the type of things that we want to do to make sure that we're being proactive, to keep kids in school. Secondly, we did what's called for the adults, because through the Helping Families Initiative, we recognize that you can't help the kids unless you help the family. So through the adults, I did what was called a second chance job fair, and people thought I was crazy. The first one I did was in June 21st of 2019. We had 57 employers show up, and they knew that their target audience were people who've been in the criminal justice system. And what we did was we had 584 job seekers to come at the Boutwell, and we actually had 152 jobs placed that day, real jobs for people who have been in the system. And we've recently done virtual ones. We're about to do another in-person one. We've done that. We've also implemented what's called the District Attorney League of Gentlemen. Why is that important? That is a mentor group that I myself fund myself out of my pocket to make sure that I use my platform for kids who come from communities like me, underserved communities, who can see that they can be whatever they want to be, that they just have to make sure that they do the right thing, stay around the right people, stay in school, and make sure that they make the necessary sacrifices. So we're doing hands-on approach through a 10-fold curriculum with those kids, whether it's conflict resolution training, academic training, assisting with athletic goals, civic engagement, community service, public speaking, career guided mentoring. We're doing all these things through this program. So we're doing a lot of things which are not typical for a DA, but I understand that it's easy to be in this office and just prosecute cases that come to court. But where the rubber meets the road is getting out in the community and trying to make sure that you get out in front of it as well. And that's where the hard work is done.
Do you think that your efforts are what brought that absence number down to some degree?
I do. I think our efforts really brought it down. I think it brought it down.
It's still a big number.
Yes, and it's a significant amount of time. And we've seen those numbers even go down more, because instead of people going to family court and a judge saying, you better keep your child in school, I'm gonna put you in jail, what we've done when they have 2 unexcused absences, we send a letter on my letterhead. And when the family comes the next time, we have a multidisciplinary team there ready to see what the root cause is, go do a home assessment, and provide whatever wraparound services they need, whether it's through Community Foundation, whether it's through Urban League or whatever. So we've had great success with the various families and some great success stories through the Helping Families
Do we
initiative.
have the resources to do these things? And if we don't, can individuals such as our viewing audience or myself participate in helping financially?
Yes, that would be great. If they will come, they can help us financially. We have a 501c3. We also, through our Helping Families initiative, have a separate entity that take financial contributions as well. They can contact us at the district attorney's office. My email is carrd, C-A-R-R-D, @jccal.org. And the number is 325-5252. And Melissa Nevin Shire is the contact person for the Helping Families initiative if you contact this office as well.
Well, thanks for being with us, Danny. I hope we can stir up some interest from the community. I appreciate you taking your time out to speak with us today. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We'll see you next week.